science here, and also others from lectures also from other university like Muhammad Taufik, and also students master program and other faculty. And then now, before we start, yeah, here also we have Dr. Bambang Susanto as one lecturer in our master program, and also other lecturers, Dr. Surya Satya also joining. So we are only 5 lecturers in our master programs. Okay, so I hope students can enjoy the talk. And now let me share your CV. I'm very impressed with your CV because uh, what is it? As a mathematician, and also you took what is that? Uh, Insurance. What is it? Auditor, yes, auditor, international auditor. If I've not wrong. Is it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe you can now later on introduce more complete. So let me check the. I have collected the CV. Denny bisa share CV-nya, Den? Kemarin udah ada, I got it already, but no, I forgot where to put.
Okay, wait a minute.
Yeah, Denny, please share the CV. Yeah, I have put in this folder, maybe in local other computer. I forgot.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, thank you. Here there are students from, is it economy? Yeah, so here Stefano Melchiona PhD, CFA. What is it? Yeah, CFA. Maybe later on you can explain what is CFA. And there exists a 3-digit number in your name. I read in your name. I want to know what does it mean, that name before CFA.
Okay.
Yeah, yes. When I read your name in the CV, there is a number. Maybe that's as a auditor. There is that way. Okay. Yeah. Here June. PhD Stefano Melchiona as a head of data science internal audits, and in Erste Group, if I'm not wrong, Erste Group as a bank group, yes, and data scientist in internal audit previously January up to June 2023, and audit specialist, RP models focus, and research assistant. So our rector is also auditor. I think I expected she would join, but maybe she's busy, so she could not join. And in education as a PhD and master and bachelor degree in mathematics with here CFA. Got CFA as a cultured financial analysis, as a globally recognized professional designation given by CFA Institute. Yeah, once I clicked this link, and I think this platform or institute that gave a certificate who wants to have a financial analyst, yes. And then the publications mostly are mathematics related to differential equations. So I don't need to read all of them because it will take your time to share your knowledge in your practical now in data science. I think that's my introductions. Now all the time is yours, but I expect maybe you can share maybe some 20 minutes or 30 minutes and then give questions for the audience to interact with. And later, if there exists no questions, then you can continue up to whatever the time you want. Okay, thank you very much. Now the time is yours.
All right. Thank you very much. Yeah, so I'm really happy to be here and to participate in this round. And thank you very much for organizing this and for the invitation. I'm really glad. And yes, I will share the screen. Let me know once you can see it. Can you see my screen? Can you see the presentation?
Yeah, it's clear.
Okay, good. And today the topic is, the webinar is named Math and Data Science in a Bank, but actually my plan was to talk mostly about this data science in a bank. And all what I will tell you is mostly out of my experience. So you know, other people might have had different experience, and I won't try to provide a general picture of how data science is used in banks. So I will give you what I think is the general picture, but is still my personal opinion. So this is just a short disclaimer before starting. And yes, so I will start talking a bit briefly about myself, because I've been invited to do so, to share my experience. So I started studying mathematics. I studied at the University of Milano in Italy. I'm Italian originally. And here you can see a beautiful picture of the central building of this university. And there I mostly focused on differential equations and calculus of variation. And after this, I moved to Vienna, and I started my PhD, my doctorate at the University of Vienna, also in mathematics and on the same topic, so calculus of variations and differential equations. And uh, the publications that were shown before refer to this period. And here again, you can see a beautiful picture of the main building of the University of Vienna. So it's a really nice place, and in case you are interested in visiting Vienna, I think it's worth to pass by the university. It's open to public. You can get, of course, get in and have a nice tour. And since I like this building very, very much, I thought of gifting you with a bonus picture of my favorite room in the building. Of course, this is not for everyday use. It's sort of a conference room, which is inside this big building. And you may see some frescoes, some paintings on the ceilings. And these have been painted by Gustav Klimt, which was considered one of the most important painter of last century. So yeah, I mean, nothing to say about it. It's just a nice uh, uh, bonus picture for you just to understand in which environment I studied. And so after finishing my PhD, I took my first job at Erste Group. Erste Group is a group of banks which is active in Central and Eastern Europe. So in particular in Austria, in Czech Republic, in Hungary, in Slovakia, in Croatia, and other neighboring countries. So as size is not such a big bank, so it's one of the biggest in these countries. But if we then compare it to the European market, is not so big. So the biggest European banks are either from Italy or Swiss. And if we then compare it on a global scale, of course, some US or Chinese banks are much bigger. So let's say we can say that the bank I work for is a regional player, but is not a global player. And here I started to work in this department, which is called internal audit. And internal audit is a sort of control function. So the department is responsible to supervise, consult, and understand risk on various processes which are happening at the bank. So we are basically responsible for checking that controls are implemented, implementing controls, supervising bank activity, but from the inside. So we are not coming from outside the bank, but from inside the bank, we have this task. And it may seem a bit boring at first, and most likely it is not the most exciting job ever. But on the other hand, since you have to supervise a lot of different activities within the bank, it gives you the possibility to learn a lot about how the organization works, about the various processes, the various departments in the bank, and also about all the data which are available in the bank, right? So you don't focus on a narrow topic, you don't become a specialist on a narrow area, but you, on the contrary, get an overview about the general functioning of the institution. And here I so I started by auditing, so by checking the credit risk models, so working with credit risk models. Those are statistical models which are used for the computation of the risk of the bank. So by law, every bank is obliged to compute the risk they are taking with their investment, with their loan portfolios and so on. And they have to compute these using some statistical models to compute some parameters, which are then aggregated into some formulas, which are typically given by the regulation to come to some risk estimates. And so I started working with this type of models, and then I gradually switched to other topics. And what I also did was to start launching an initiative to help this department to become more data-oriented, data-driven, right? Because traditionally, the Department of Internal Audit in European banks is composed mostly by people with a background either in economics or most often in legal, so they are lawyers, most of my colleagues. And so they do not have many many skills when it comes to mathematics, statistics, or data science, data analysis, and so on. So what I started doing here was to try to develop these skills and to develop a unit within the internal audit department, which is able to improve the way of working of my colleagues in this regard. So it's able to service the department with data analysis, data science models, and so on and so forth. And so that went well, we can say, and that resulted in me being head of this small unit within the internal audit department. So what I do every day is more or less to coordinate a small team of people in Austria, plus some other people across other countries where our subsidiaries are, to work with data science model, to educate our colleagues and so on and so forth on the topic of data analysis, data science. So that's it as an introduction about myself. If you have question, please just stop me and ask. So anytime. I cannot see your the chat or the meeting room environment, the virtual environment, virtual meeting room environment. But so please just raise your voice and ask me if you have questions. Good. Then, so I was not really sure what to talk about today, and then I decided on this small agenda. Let me know if you are interested in this. Otherwise, we can try to discuss about something else. So my plan was to talk first about data science in European banks. Of course, my point of view, how I perceive it, and then how it is working as a scientist in a bank. Sorry, there's a type. And yes. So I decided on this second part because I imagined that some of you might be attending this webinar because you may have interest of moving to big corporation, maybe banks, and work there as a data scientist or data analyst. Okay, is it fine for you as an agenda? Shall I move on?
Yeah, it's clear. Good.
Okay, great. Good. Then, again, a disclaimer. I'm talking mostly about European banks because I do not have international experience, so I don't know exactly what is the situation in other markets, in other countries or continents. So the most common use, of course, data science is used in a lot of situation, but the most common use cases are the ones listed here. So risk modeling, which is what I mentioned before. So computation of risk parameters to be used either for internal or for external, which means regulatory purposes, to try to monitor your risk, to model your risk, and then to take actions once you were able to measure the risk you're facing. Then another big usage of data science is for financial crime detection. So financial crime means money laundering, financing terrorism, internal and external frauds. And this is an area which is recently been developed a lot using data science. So people started realizing that using some machine learning model, they can have much better outcomes of detecting financial crime than by using techniques which were used in the past, which were mostly scenario based. Good. Then, of course, data science is used also in investment decisions. So when you have to decide on in which projects or in which securities to invest, when you have to optimize your portfolio of investment, and also where you have to advise your customers about possible investments considering their financial health profile. Good. And also, of course, as in a lot of other companies, data science is used to analyze customer data with the aim of giving them recommendations and with the aim of improving your marketing campaign. So you want to understand what are your customer data, what are your customer needs out of their data. So are they most likely to buy, and what are they most likely not to buy, to target your recommendations, or maybe to understand if the customer is about to churn you, so to quit the relationship with you and to move to a competitor, and this type of things. So this is this concerns the areas where data science is applied, but then what is the level of maturity of European banks in the usage of data science? Well, I have to sadly say that it's pretty low. So banks are big organizations typically, and they have a lot of inertia. They come from a long history of infrastructure, processes, and system, and so they are very, very slow in adopting new technology. So in particular, what you will realize is that state-of-the-art technologies are not used. So there's a great hype behind this technology. Most recently is generative AI, but they are seldom used, at least to a large scale. So banks are typically below the state of the, so behind the state-of-the-art technology, and typically when a new technology comes out, it takes some years, if not decades, before being adopted by big banks. So there's a lot of inertia. And banks are still working on improving their data infrastructure. So you may think that data which banks collect, which are a lot, so you have to imagine banks own and collect really a lot of data, but the data infrastructure is often not mature enough to allow data scientists or any, I don't know, business stakeholders to extract value from data readily, so in a short time framework. So banks are still in the process of improving their data infrastructure, which means their data centers, the tools to connect to your data. They are still struggling with democratization of data, so having data accessible to all interested stakeholders. They still are facing issues with data protection and data security. And also, what's an additional issue is also that mostly only internal data are used by banks. So banks collect a lot of internal data, but very often those data are not enough for some projects. So think, for instance, if you want to model your customer let's say behavior. So rather than using internal data about which loans they took and when they repaid them, or if whatever other data you may have collected, you would be much better off to go on their Facebook and use the data out of their post, use the data out of their LinkedIn, use the data out of their social media platforms. Banks do not do this for two reasons. One, that there are some regulatory constraints in doing this, so you can simply go around and ship and collect and use mass information about your customer if they don't give you explicit consent to do so. But the other reason is that they are not ready to do this. So they mostly focus only on internal data and they rarely use external databases. Okay, good. Of course, there are people experimenting within banks, and experiments are of different sorts, and they focus on different areas. Most notably, recently, you can find people experimenting with machine learning, of course, with artificial intelligence, with blockchain, which is the technology which powers Bitcoin and all the other cryptocurrencies. And some people are even experimenting with quantum computing. So, but the problem is that this experimentation is often at the level of individual projects or macro initiatives. So few people or few small teams which start playing with this technology, start doing research, start participating in conferences and so on. But what the bank system lacks is strategic initiatives at large scale to try to really evolve faster and adopt faster these more modern technologies. Good. So why is this so? What are the challenges? So bankers are not stupid, so they know that there's a lot of value behind modern technology, behind state-of-the-art models and so on. And they also understand there is monetary value behind this technology. So why the change is so slow and why adapting to new technology is so difficult? Well, there are several reasons. One is, of course, people. So just think that only in the uh, uh, building where I work, so the central headquarters of my bank in Vienna, there are 5,000 people working. And most of them are then, not most of them, but a good chunk of them are working there since many years, since decades. And so they have a mindset which is completely different to mine. So I'm rather young, fresh out of the university, and I like experimenting with science, with data science, with technology. But most of my colleagues are still lawyers who graduated 20 or 30 years ago. So for them, it's really hard to adapt to the new mindset and to be aware of what can be possible and what are the benefits of this new technology. Some people are simply afraid of losing their job in favor of automatized processes or things like that. So there is, and this problem is not affecting only employees, but is also affecting managers. So even at the level of big managers, they simply don't know what to do with this technology. They are living in a world which has changed with respect to the time they learned how the world works. So they are still living, let's say, in the past. So there is a general problem with the mindset and with awareness. And this is not only for people working in the bank, so we said employees and also managers, but is also a problem, let's say, of our customers. So most of the customers are not yet ready to embrace new technology. So for instance, a few time ago in my bank, there was a project to try to do something with blockchain technologies, right? And the use case was to help some corporate customers, so companies which are clients of the bank, to basically speed up some processes. But the project was basically put on hold and in the end failed for the very simple reason that the customer could not see the need of this technology because their partners, their business partners, simply were not ready to embrace this technology, right? So if there is pressure, even from the customer side, sometimes, not always, but sometimes, to slow down the adoption of new technology. Also, one of the challenges is related to the system. So the banks are very big beasts, and they are living since decades or even hundreds of years. So, for instance, the bank I work for is almost 200 years old. And so you can imagine that historically there was an accumulation of systems and technology in the bank which was not organic. So we have a lot of systems which are not ready to support new technology, and also the integration between systems for various tasks in the bank is crazy complicated. So you have hundreds of systems, some of them are very old, and they are closely coupled, and so it's really hard to introduce a new system. And this so let's say that you build a very promising and very performing machine learning model, but this is usually not a problem. Banks can do this, they can build machine learning models, but then the problem is how to deploy it. So how do you put this model into production when you have to take care of the integration of this model with hundreds of different systems? Okay, then apart from the let's say IT system side, there are also problems of integration of the new technology. Let's say in our example, our new machine learning model with business processes. So when you decide that from now on this task is no longer done manually, but rather with machine learning, you have to change all the not only your system, but also the way people work with this process, right? And this is also very problematic in some cases. And last but not least, another issue is the availability of data. So I told you that banks collect a lot of data, and this is true. So there's huge databases, but very often this data are not so available. So it's not so easy to get your hands on the data, especially not maybe with the quality and frequency that you may need. So for instance, think of an example. If you want to build a fraud detection model, your detection model needs to work with live data, right? It has to react quickly to new events. And if the data you need to train this model are available only once per month, right? Because maybe they are delivered only end of the month, by some system, then you may have no problems in training your model. Your model may look great on your training data and your validation data, but then there's no way you can deploy this model into production, right? Because your model won't be able to react quickly to some events simply because the data will come 1 month later. Okay, good. And last but not least, there is also regulations are contributing to slowing the adoption of technology by banks. So banks, especially in Europe, are heavily regulated. So, and thanks God, I would say. So there's hundreds of regulations heavily impacting bank, and bank have to comply with all these regulations. And sometimes the regulations are simply not yet mature enough to allow you to adopt some new state-of-the-art technology, because maybe these technologies are still, not fully tested, or maybe the regulator are simply not familiar with those technologies. Also, very often regulations ask you to be able to explain what you do. And in terms of using models, they are asking you basically to be able to interpret the results of your models. And you can imagine that as long as you use logistic regression or linear regression, then it's very easy to interpret the predictions of your model. But when you go to neural networks or, I don't know, XGBoost or this type of models, then it becomes harder and harder to be able to explain why your model gave a certain prediction or a certain outcome. Okay, good. So that will conclude the first part. Do you have any question about it?
So, okay, students, adakah yang ingin bertanya? So I speak Indonesian, so maybe they cannot ask in English, so maybe I can translate if they want to ask. Hello everybody, mungkin ada yang ingin bertanya. Jadi yang disampaikan tadi adalah bahwa sesungguhnya di Bank Eropa sana masih terjadi gap yang cukup besar antara teknologi yang sekarang sudah ada maupun di dalam bank gitu ya, karena bank itu sudah 200 tahunan begitu, sehingga akumulasi data yang terjadi itu dari teknologi itu untuk mengadopsi teknologi yang ada itu tentunya akan sangat kompleks begitu. Itu yang problem yang ada begitu ya. Dan biasanya mereka yang sudah bekerja di sana mungkin sudah cukup tua, yang sudah mapan tentunya dengan teknologi yang terdahulu begitu. So suatu kali pernah diterapkan blockchain teknologi untuk mempercepat proses dalam di bank itu, tapi ternyata tidak bisa digunakan. Begitu kira contohnya ya. Jadi kemudian juga banyak data yang dimana kita bisa mengaplikasikan machine learning, tetapi banyak data itu tidak berarti terus mudah dimanfaatkan untuk melakukan proses lebih lanjut. Data are not easy to hands on to work with gitu ya. So jadi itu contoh tentang fraud detection model, di mana itu terkait dengan live model gitu. Jadi tentang waktunya, time frame waktunya, sehingga sekalipun model itu bagus dalam training maupun validasi, tapi ketika di deploy itu is not easy ya, artinya tidak belum tentu kemudian terjadi seperti yang diharapkan atau sudah cukup bagus begitu ya. Sehingga artinya ini cukup lambat ya, cukup lambat adanya peralihan teknologi di bank, slowly adapt the technology, especially about the technology in data science, karena di bank itu juga regulasinya sangat banyak, sekitar 200-an ya, heavily regulated, sehingga artinya dikatakan that therefore about maturity of regulations itu disimpulkan is not yet mature enough ya to adapt the state of technology. Jadi tidak siap, kesiapan teknologi itu, mengadopsi teknologi itu tidak siap. Ya, saya pikir hanya di Indonesia saja. I thought that to adapt the technology is the problem in our Indonesia, so that we saw also a problem in European, right? So that I reflect due to your talk that about this, as you mentioned here, maturity of the regulations to adopt the technology right now is not that easy in even in European and bank. Though we, as Asia people, I thought that okay, in Europe is more modern. Of course, you have, I mean, a better way of mindset of the people there to adapt the technology. That's my impression in from your first part of this talk. Tidak ada pertanyaan, everybody? Ini Indonesia is normally easy to ask. Okay, Pak Martin Satu Sambo, please open your camera. You may ask.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I cannot open now. Thank you, Mr. Stefano. I want to ask something about your challenges about customer needs. If you come to Indonesia, we see the I think some bank in Indonesia, the large one, start to try the the new technology. So the challenge in Indonesia, I think, in my side, how to bring the access to uh, the customer first before they want. Sometimes customers didn't know what they need, so bank will be give them this is the best way to serve them. But is it in Europe like that, or if you encounter another challenge in customer? For example, I have a account in a bank, so every month they have like ads, this is um, the new technology in for example in payment and so on. And Indonesia will take this as an opportunity to try and then try. So is it the same in the European context? People will try the new technology, or they have some, another mindset, or how could you understand what I mean? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So, I mean, of course, we are speaking in general of bank customers, which are millions. So it's hard to generalize. Some people may be more or less interested in the new technologies and in advancements, but in general, so the big banks in Europe have a very solid customer base. And the customers are relatively satisfied with the offers from the bank. And also other big banks are more or less the same, offer more or less the same product and the same technology, right? So there is not quite an incentive for big banks to adopt something very new, very costly, very experimental, as long as the other big competitors don't. So this incentive is only for the smaller banks because they have to gain market share. So they have few customers and they want to get them. And so they may be experimenting more. But as long as they don't, these small players do not create enough pressure from the customer side to adopt some new technology at the bank level, the big bank will still live with inertia and they won't adopt anything substantially new. I don't know if this answers your question, but
yeah, that's correct. May I want one more question about, for example, automatization of let's say in the teller and so on. So how do we in a data as a data scientist, how could we make them believe that this will be more efficient or more, I mean, without more experiment, could we be I mean, more engaged with the bank and try as a data scientist, we will prove that this way will be make you more efficient or um, more reach your market, the large market, and so on. Is this still occur in Europe, or I mean, they will not try another, I mean, experiment like that?
So
Namaste.
two things maybe on this one. So so getting rid of basically branches, employees, and tellers at the desk and have a more digital bank is something for which there is a pressure in Europe. So all the big banks are trying to become more and more digital. But this as of course can be helped by data science, but it's I don't know. I will see it more as an I don't know, a purely IT and digital challenge. So to produce some web apps or phone apps which are engaging enough for the customer and simple enough to use for the customer. Yes, and I guess all the banks in Europe are doing this because there is pressure from the customers. Uh, because all the young folks and even the corporates now want to have a digital bank. They don't want to go to the branches all the time.
Mm.
But if I can take your question from a bit more general perspective, so how can data scientists help the bank mindset to change? Well, this is a challenge. So I think I'm very often thinking that I would like to ask this to I don't know mental coach or development coach rather than to a data scientist, because I don't know, it's a challenge I'm still struggling with, even in my small area, in my small context of the audit department. It's really a challenge. So how do you have your employees, customers, managers engaging in data science activities? That's really hard. One thing I found out is helping is by education. So if you can educate them, teach them even in simple words what is data science about, and most importantly, show them some concrete benefits. So if you can show them that, okay, if you now do these things my way, you can do it in 2 days rather than in 2 weeks because you automatize it, then you may have some some leverage power on this. Or if you can show that there are monetary benefits, like I don't know, you're either saving money by simplifying tasks or creating money by getting revenues and so on. So it's really challenging, and it's typically a skill which is not taught in technical university like mathematics and data science. I've never been taught this skill. So how to motivate and convince people is a skill I most likely do not possess. I would like to have it, but yeah, I don't know. It's hard.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bu
There
Hana
is a
boleh
question in the chart. Maybe you can have a look in the chart from Mr. Darmawan Utama. As a data engineer, I think. How fast or often you train data to adapt the changing behavior of the customer data. The first one. The second one, how much the quality of the machine learning in general.
Okay. So that really depends on your use case, right? So how fast you retrain your model to adapt to the changing behavior. So typically, I try to give a general answer, but typically the best practice are you retrain your model once per year at the very least, plus you develop some monitoring of your model. So you create some metrics and indicators which tell you if your model is most likely to mispredict. And if so, you have a set of indicators which monitor your model constantly or with a higher frequency, let's say every week or every month. And if the indicators trigger some alarms, then you think of revalidating or retraining your model. So this is was typical. It is what should be done typically. And here I'm of course talking mostly of supervised models. When you go to unsupervised models, then the thing changes because it's really hard to evaluate unsupervised models if you don't have labels. And if you have labels, then you better use supervised models. So I'm assuming labels are not available. And in this case, retraining can be even less frequent. But the key is always to monitor your model, to keep your monitoring model. Your model monitor. Yes. And the quality of machine learning in general, I don't know how to answer this one. It really depends on your use case. So I don't know. I don't know. I would say so in for what I've seen, the quality of a model depends 99% on two factors. One is the quality of your input data, and the second is how well your model is deployed. So, and only the 1% is of the quality of your model is given by the actual modeling aspects. So, which model you choose, how you trained it, and all these things. So, we are, I guess, many people among you are well-trained data scientists, so you know very well how to train a model, what you should be, how to tune your hyperparameters, and all of this. Um, so typically this part is well done. And where the things go wrong is usually at the level of data quality or at the level of deployment. So data quality, uh, I mean, I think I don't have to explain you much. So if your data are bad, then your results will be bad. But deployment is sometimes more subtle. So if you are not careful in putting your model into production, you may have a model which works wonderfully on your trained data and on your validation and test data. But once it is in production, it may completely fail simply because there are some errors in deployments. There are some interesting talks about this on YouTube, but Andrew NG for it, NG, sorry, I don't know exactly how to spell it. I can type it in the chat. Or there are even some Coursera classes by him where he talks about model deployment. They are very interesting. So I may advise you to follow some of them because I found them myself very useful.
Okay, thank you. I hope it's clear for Pak Dermawan. So maybe, yeah, there is no other questions. I think you can come to the next slide.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Then, so in the next two slides, I want two. I want to talk so because I was expecting an audience composed mostly by students in data science, and so I may thought that some of you might consider a career in a bank, and so I wanted to share a bit with you what you can expect as a data scientist in a bank, and also what can you do to improve your curriculum, your CV, and have a strong CV. So what you can expect as a data scientist here, you have a short bullet list. So expect a lot of very simple models. So expect a lot of logistic and linear regression. And these models, we learn them in the first years of our education, but they are nevertheless very powerful. So if your data are good, very often you can already do a lot by using these very simple models. And also they have the advantage that many other people in the bank can understand these models, because very often even people who had a bit of, who studied, I don't know, finance or economics, they are still familiar with simple regression models. So you will have a very easy time explaining them what you are doing, rather than trying to use some advanced machine learning or whatever. And also, they are these models are often the ones which are most compatible with regulations, especially in the area of credit risk model with models, which is heavily regulated, and the bank invests a lot of resources in this area. The models are typically either logistic or linear regression models. So if you go working for a bank, expect to do a lot of this. Then expect to work a lot on the data. So the experience we may have at university is that the data are usually in our projects are usually not an issue. So we got for our university project good data out of, I don't know, Kaggle or out of some platforms or GitHub, whatever, some platforms in the internet, and these data are usually rather clean, they are comprehensible, they come from a unique source. But when you, in a normal working context, your data are typically very dirty. They come from thousands of different sources, and then you have to understand how to aggregate them, and they are poorly described. So maybe they come from some old system which was built in the 80s or in the 70s, and the people who built this system is now long gone from your company, and you simply do not have a good data description, right? So you will spend, and sometimes sadly waste, a lot of time simply trying to understand your data and try to make sense out of them, try to prepare them to be ready to apply whatever model. And also very important, and this is not only for banks, but is in general, I believe, for companies, deployment takes time, and you should understand deployment. So traditionally, I guess deployment of model was not done by data scientists, but maybe by, I don't know, DevOps, or I don't know, software engineers or other professional figures. But I think is more and more relevant for data scientists to understand how to deploy a model. And this is usually what takes the longest time. Rather than creating the model, deployment and integrating your model with business routines and with all the system is what takes time. And also, as already mentioned before, domain knowledge and soft skills play a crucial role, because very often you will work with people from backgrounds which are very different from you, and so you will need the skills to talk to them and communicate with them effectively. And also sometimes they won't be able to explain exactly what they need. So you need a bit of domain knowledge to understand what are the needs of your project, of your model. And then, okay, this is just alert. Be aware of fancy job description, because they may trick you. So sometimes, you read the job description, we are hiring a new machine learning engineer or AI whatever developer, and in the end you end up doing 90% linear regression or simple data visualization. And and of course, as already discussed a lot, you may face a mindset which is opposing to change. So I know I'm giving you I don't want to give you such a bad picture. So it's not so bad to work as a data scientist in a bank. There's also a lot of good things which you can do, but you have also to be prepared to face the reality. And the reality, as of today, 2023 in Europe, is mostly this. So the fancy model and the academic experimentation are still a bit are still far away. Maybe in a few years the things will change. Maybe if you go to some other areas in the world, the things are a bit better. If you go maybe to the US, or if you change a bit the business area, maybe if you go to investment banking, the things are a bit different. But I'm not completely sure. Okay, the other thing I want to tell you is some tips on how to improve your CV. So I'm here assuming that you are well skilled in math and data science, and I am pretty sure of this. I saw before the presentation of your university and the master degree program, and so I have no doubt that you know a lot about it. But there are also some additional knowledge that or skills that you may need in your career, and very often those other skills are what could make you uh, stand out with respect to other people with your educational background, right? Because once data scientists were rare, but now there's a lot of them. So if you want to stand out, you have to be ready to offer something in addition. And so here are some things that I think that they might be useful. So have a bit of knowledge in traditional statistics. So because this is still used a lot, is still very powerful. So now the hype is all about machine learning and artificial intelligence, but still traditional statistics is still very powerful and very useful. So I guess it's good to have a solid grasp on it, and which I personally do not have too much because I focused on other area in mathematics, and then I had to learn it by myself once I was already employed by the bank. And but I saw it would have been a big advantage to know it already. Also, so if you go to work somewhere outside the academia, so outside the university, then you may find useful to have some domain knowledge. So in particular, if you go to a bank, you want to know a bit about finance, economics, or banking, or anything else you might find useful. Also, try to learn machine learning ops and deployment. They are kind of connected because this will become more and more of a skill, I believe. And I'm taking this conviction. Also, okay, so I simply believe it. We can then discuss it. And then also now is everything is ready to be moved to the cloud. So if you are familiar with cloud technology, for instance, AWS or Google Cloud or Azure or other big cloud providers, so you will for sure have an edge. So I'm now trying to get a basic certification on AWS for this exact reason, because I believe it may help. But I have heard from other people working as data scientists that as soon as they got certified with some AWS cloud certification, they immediately were bombarded by job offers. So this is really hot at the moment. Also, I put two question marks here, but NLP, natural language processing, might be also an area where to focus. I guess you are for sure familiar with working with relational databases and flat data, so like big flat tables, and you can easily build and work with models consuming those data, like, I don't know, neural networks, random forest and this type of models, it is also very, it might be, that's why there are two question marks, it might be also useful to learn how to work with text data as well, because especially in institutions like banks, you have a lot of unstructured text data, which you may want to extract some value from. And as a general tip, try to get certified. So learning for the sake of interest is for sure great, and it's what I like to do. But having a certification is what your employer will look at. So if you have some piece of paper proving that you know something, you will have a big advantage. So for instance, for cloud technology, there are a lot of certifications you may try to get. Some are not too expensive, and also on other areas, you may find some online courses which then have an exam and grant you a certification. And this may help your chances of easily getting a job. Okay, I hope this was any useful, and thank you very much. And now, if you have some question, please let me know.
Okay, thank you very much. Already there are two students raise hand. Please, Grace, Octavia, open your cam and direct ask your question, please. Grace, Octavia, Kurniawan. Hello. And James Arison Sakarias. Mentions your name and maybe your background. Okay, James, directly, please.
Okay, thank you for the chance. I want to ask, I run finance data. I run a finance data with regression in SPSS. And with the same model, I run into the logistic regression. And when I change the dependent variable stock price with 1 and 0. 1 if the return is increasing and 0 if the return is not increasing. But I found that the adjusted R-square between regression model and logistic regression model is different. And I want to ask if we use the same model, we just change the dependent variable. If you use the same model for the regression and logistic regression, is it okay if the result is different? The adjusted R-square, the regression coefficient sign, is that okay, or maybe there is something wrong in the model? Thank you.
Sorry, I'm not 100% sure I understood your question, but so you have a model and you want to, which wants to predict a price increase or price decrease. And this price increase or decrease is model like a binary variable, so 0, 1, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
And I have,
so,
yes. And I have a regression model with just stock price, not predict increase or decrease. But the independent variable all the same. Just the dependent variable I change.
Okay. So you have a set of the independent variables, and you are wondering, okay, in one case I want to predict if the price increases or decreases, and in the other case I want to predict the exact price. Okay, good. Then
Yes.
I would say that you should use the logistic regression when you model your target at 0, 1, and you should rather use the linear regression when you use the full price as target variable. And of course, those models, linear and logistic regression, are different. So, of course, your coefficients, sign value and p-value may change, and of course your the way you measure the performance of your model may also change. So in one case you simply use the squared error or r square or other things, and in the other case you maybe want to use some accuracy metrics to predict to evaluate your model.
Okay,
I'm not sure
so,
if I am. Yeah.
so maybe there is, I think from what I capture from your answer is, if there is if I use my one model with two method, regression, linear regression and logistic regression, and there is different in the adjusted R square, it is okay because there is some difference in the error.
So if you change the target variable, you're basically changing the model. So you should consider the two models as two different things. I mean, you don't have a way to directly compare them. So you are basically training two different models, one to predict the price increase and the other to predict the exact stock price.
Okay, thank you for your answer.
Thank you for the question.
Baik, terima kasih. Jadi kalau target variabelnya berbeda, berarti merubah modelnya sehingga tidak bisa langsung dibandingkan. Gitu ya. Oke, Grace, persilahkan. Grace, please. It's not yet. Okay, there is tadi ada yang raise juga. Is there any others? Grace, not yet. Somebody. Grace, no? Ada lagi yang mau bertanya? Boleh bertanya dalam bahasa Indonesia. Oh, okay. In the chat, there are many. From Christian Anderson, Natalie Sell, before Pak Martin ya. Are there any banks in Europe that have a system that can detect and prevent suspicious transaction using the obtained data? If there are errors in the system, such as misinterpretations of transactions by the system, can it hinder customers in investing? Thank you. From chat.
Yes, so of course those information are kept confidential by banks. So I don't know about which banks has it, which do not have. But in general, all banks are more or less aligned in terms of standards. So I can tell you how it is done at my bank. So traditionally, so I'm starting a bit from the past. Traditionally, the process of monitoring transaction was done with a scenario-based logic. So some fraud expert or financial crime experts were designing some scenarios. For instance, I don't know, high transactions destined to high-risk countries, or very frequent transactions in small amounts, or another scenario could be high volume of incoming money followed by immediately by outgoing money, or another scenario could be, I don't know, high cash deposit followed by a lot of transaction to different, I don't know, whatever, fiscal havens in the world and things like that. So people were sitting at a table and designing this type of scenarios, then translated them into algorithms. And the algorithms were simply screening all the transactions done by customers. And if they found something trigger the scenarios, they were raising the alerts. And then the alerts were passed to some humans. And the humans, so some colleagues of ours, which are expert in this area, and these colleagues were simply investigating the alerts, checking maybe additional data, checking online and things like that. And then they were either deciding that the thing was not suspicious or reporting this customer and this transaction to the authorities. And you can imagine that if you want to be on the safe side, you have to generate many more alerts than what are actually the true financial crimes, right? So these scenarios were triggering a lot of false positives. So a lot of customers were alerted without being suspicious. Of course, the customer didn't know about it, because unless the alert was then reviewed as a suspicious case by the human, the customer was not notified, right? And so everything was happening behind the scenes. But all the banks in Europe are basically suffering this issue, that there are a lot of false positives, which require a lot of manual work to be investigated. And now, recently, what the banks started doing is to develop some machine learning models to try to predict suspicious behaviors or suspicious transactions, or to try to prioritize the alerts. So maybe all scenarios are still generating the alerts, and now the machine learning model are applied to the alerts and will say, okay, this is interesting, is worth to be investigated, this is most likely a false positive, you don't have to check it, something like that. Yes, so this is the answer in short. Yes, people are now experimenting with this. And of course, being machine learning models, you don't rely on a particular scenario, you just let the model learn the patterns. I hope this answers.
Yeah, I hope it answered the questions. Pak Christian Anderson. And then there are other questions. Okay, one more from Pak Martin. What is your proudest work or impactful work as a data scientist since working in a banking?
I don't know. Good question. I don't know. I don't know. I can maybe tell you one relatively funny thing I was working on. So I work in this department, internal audit, and what auditors do, they review a process or some whatever aspect of the banking world, and they produce reports. Reports are simply some text, right? Some report which is then distributed to managers and to other people in the bank. And of course, the top management do not want to read 100 or 1,000 reports produced in Austria and in all the other countries where our bank is having subsidiaries. So once a quarter, we produce a short report summarizing the biggest issues or the most critical thing that the various departments have found. And we give only this short version to the management. And this was historically done manually. So some people, usually intern, so young people, were sitting there trying to read the summaries of reports, trying to understand which one were worth reporting, and then writing a summary. And what we did, we trained a natural language process model who does two things. The first thing is screens through the report and try to understand what is critical and what is not important. But the trick was to try to teach the model to recognize what is critical from our viewpoint, so from the viewpoint of an internal auditor. And then once this first thing is done, so once the reports are screened, selecting the, let's say, critical issues, then there is a second algorithm which simply summarizes the model and writes a short summary. So this was a fun exercise to do. The results are okayish, meaning that the whole thing is working, but is not completely autonomous. So is working, is producing his results, but then the results are still validated by some of our colleagues because we don't want just the algorithm to talk directly to the management board, right? We want still a bit of human intervention in it and human screening. But still, overall, it helped them saving some time. And this was a fun exercise.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's nice to hear that you apply natural language processing, because I thought when you said manual, oh my goodness, there's a lot of work and perhaps cannot be done objectively. Yeah. Okay. And maybe before others are asking, as mathematicians and with your background, uh, uh,
Hello?
I compared with your positions right now, I think completely different. Yes, and because you have more analytics, so it means you're working more with your brain as mathematicians instead of technology, as far as I understood, because you are working with variational method and differential equations, not with many coding and stuff. When if I saw your CVs, you have more analytical working previously than applying coding to do something in your work. But now I think you have to do a lot of codings. So how do you feel working on that way compared to your experience before as mathematicians compared to now?
I don't know. Yes, you're right. So before going to the bank, I basically never coded or just a little bit in some basic courses at the university, right? And also I didn't know much about statistics. I didn't know data science, and I didn't know anything about finance. Oh, maybe about finance a little bit, but because I knew I wanted to go outside academia, so I started studying. But my work at the university had nothing to do with finance. So all these things I had to learn later at the bank. And I was lucky because I had the opportunity to learn them. So of course this takes time, and my bosses were, giving me enough time also for that. So I was happy about it. How do I feel? I don't know. Sometimes I have a bit of nostalgia of the academia, and of theoretical research, especially in the occasions when we met at the conference. I was there, very excited to be again in a research environment, and I had a bit of nostalgia for that word. So presenting at conferences, writing papers, and so on. On the other hand, of course, there are advantages also in the job I'm doing now. So I don't know. It's hard to say. There are pros and cons in both words, and yeah, maybe at some time I will change job and search for something more research oriented.
Okay, well, maybe in our case, because government now asks for us lecturers should have experience related to practical things such as in bank, industry, or government and other communities. So therefore, I'm asking about how it's linked with your previous experience as a researcher in theoretical, mostly in theoretical part. Yes. Okay. I hope. I mean, because maybe the money is much more in bank as than as a like researcher, right? I and also more challenging because different field to work with compared to your background. Is that so?
Sorry, sometimes the connection was broken. I could not hear you completely. Can you repeat, please?
Yeah, because I understood that you are, I mean, you, nostalgia, how to get in the academic activity, and also therefore you join the conference and also you accept our invitation, so then you can share how not mathematics but data science develop in a practical way in a bank. So therefore, in my point of view, that is very good chance because it is a new field or even very completely different with your background, because mostly more theoretical than application, in that sense. Yeah, because of course differential equation, of course, theoretical or applications can join together, but in this case I didn't see uh, differential equations involved in your working right now. Therefore, I'm asking about how do you feel with this work now as a banker?
Yeah, you're right. So there's no differential equations in what I do now. And how do I feel? Yeah, as said before, I miss a bit the theoretical research, not specifically in differential equations, but in general, the university and this type of environment. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, long time ago, I heard about like Ito equations that were
Mhm.
developed by some students and used in banks in Europe, firstly in England, and they are quite famous. And then, therefore, England is growing their bank because of this using Ito formulas. Have you ever heard that case?
Yes. So basically, um, those stochastic processes are
Yeah,
at the base for basically all the modern finance. So all the modern finance equations are derived out of stochastic processes and differential equations. So basically the most famous equation is the Black-Scholes model, which is nothing, is very similar to the heat equation in
yeah,
physics. And this is used for the pricing of options. Um, and now there's many. I'm not really familiar in this with this, but there's many stochastic differential equations which are used in finance, which as a background have this type of stochastic processes and so on, and they are really used in finance mostly in the area of pricing of securities in so I see how some banks may use them, but not the bank I'm working for, because the bank I'm working for is mostly a retail bank. So we serve, a normal customer like me and you, so people who have their accounts at the bank, of course, some corporate customer and so on, but we are not this type of investment banking, investing heavily in securities, in derivatives and so on. So other financial institutions will use this type of mathematics more. So I'm not too familiar with it, but that is definitely an area where a mathematician can thrive, right? Because those are, I would say, very complex mathematical models with a direct, concrete application. So if you get them right, you can make a lot of money. So yes.
Okay, I mean, so therefore, in your bank, you haven't met such this application differential equations in your bank, right?
No, I'm sure we have some traders, and I'm sure they use some pricing models which are basically based on this type of things, but they are not developed internally. I guess we buy the solution, so we buy those models from external providers, and we simply use them. So we are not trying to be front runners on in this area, also because our let's say because we don't do this much in our business.
Yeah.
So other bigger banks or bigger financial institutions, or even smaller, but other financial institutions to do more this.
Okay. Yeah, that's nice. Hello everybody, is there any questions? So jadi tadi dijelaskan bagaimana penggunaan data science. Tadi saya bertanya karena backgroundnya tentang differential equation, apakah ada aplikasinya di situ. Ternyata karena lebih pada retail banking, jadi tidak banyak digunakan begitu. Kemudian yang ingin, so I want to ask one more. We have one part section in our data science master program is called business intelligence. How do you use, or is there any applications like business intelligence in your group?
Business intelligence.
Yeah, business intelligence. Yeah.
Yes, we have, I guess, an
There are
entire
like
unit which is
platform
named with
BI,
this
Power
name.
BI.
Sorry?
Yeah. Example, they use Power BI in our class.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How is in your bank?
Yeah, so what I know, then
What is the
please tell me
platforms
also
used?
what you teach in this course. I would be interested. But what I know about the topic business intelligence is basically trying to extract some sort of business value out of your data, but how it is typically done is by trying to gather and collect your data, to push them to some central databases which are accessible to your people, and try to generate some reports out of your data, which may contain business value. And these reports are very often delivered in terms of data visualization or data dashboards, which are then used by business people to, I don't know, to do business, whatever this means. I don't know, what do you teach in your course about business intelligence?
No, I'm teaching deep learning, neural network, but join machine learning, join with my husband. So business intelligence in another group, but since you are working in bank, that most related to business intelligence. Therefore, I'm asking whether there is a small area there, and perhaps, and when this lecture will be delivered, maybe you can give a lecture 2 or 3 times meeting in that class. Not
No?
a big class. How is in the bank really? Yeah. To share, is possible for you later on to share maybe
Yes, sorry.
such as, yeah, what is going on project in bank, so then can be a problem for small problem for students to make such a exercise coding that related directly to your case. Is that possible later on, maybe
Yes,
just
I guess.
two meetings or
Yeah,
something
sorry.
like that? Yeah, is that possible for you later
Hello?
on
Can you hear
if
me?
you give us such? Yeah, yes, I can hear.
Okay, good. Yeah, sorry, your connection was again a bit broken from my side, probably. And yes, I guess it's possible, but maybe we can then agree on email exactly what to do and
Yes,
what you
thank you.
need and what I can offer also. And yeah, yeah, but
Okay.
why not?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, my connection was bad. Then he said,
Uh,
okay. Yes. So I repeat that maybe later on, you can be our supervisor in practical from outside, international. So then you can share like a small problem that we can do coding related to the problem. So then you give supervision to the students, whether their coding, maybe like exploratory data coming from the bank, small one, maybe you can hide some identity and if it is needed. So then student get experience. Oh, we do a problem direct from a company or from a bank, from Europe, something like that. That would be interesting. And then you could also do research together with us, uh, relate to your problem, and then you do kind of academic, yeah, to meet with students. Is that possible? Yeah.
Yeah, that would be cool. I have to check to which extent is possible. I really doubt I can share some bank data, even if I anonymize them, uh, because regulations here are very strict, and I'm pretty sure my boss won't allow it. But I'm pretty sure that online we can find some public databases which mock pretty well real data, like Kaggle, GitHub have a lot of those databases. And what you will have is that they are much cleaner than how data are actually in companies, but
Yeah.
it's probably still an
Yeah.
advantage for the students.
Okay.
But yes, we can think of this. Thank you very much for the offer.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Because last year we have the director from the company also become a students in our master program, and he shared his data. So he took this chance uh, to study together, that we took us as his partner to collaborate with, to work with as his consultant, something like that, or his partners. So to help him to do some analysis, so or exploratory data, so he hides some identity. But in that case, we have, what is it? We have win-win solutions. Yeah, he got some consultants how to speak with the data, because he is from economic, but he is working in the what's it, in mining area, something like that. So then he didn't say from where is this data, but then we can share whether we can give, we can provide some conclusions that he need to consider according to his problem. So something like that. So this therefore and also this is good also for us, because means student learn directly from the company, that also relate to our university. Okay, we have related to this company, so that's give a credit point to the institution, our institution. So something like that. So if is it possible, not we can take the from the international one. Yes. So we can talk later on in detail in the next semester. I don't know when will be in the business intelligence. I think that more close to your field. Yes. Yeah. Is that okay? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Nice. Yeah. That's so great. So, okay. There is somebody is asking. Okay. So please, Grace, Octavia, already raise your hand and open your cam. Grace, or okay. Yeah, it's opening the hand. Yeah, please come in, open directly. Chris or Arison. Yeah.
Sorry, I want to ask again. I'm
Okay.
interested. Yeah. I want to ask about your experience as data scientist in bank. So if there's any multivariate data analysis for predicting the good debuter from the bad in for small and medium enterprise. So if there is a debitor who wants to loan from the bank, we can predict that he can pay the interest in the he can pay his loan in the future. Thank you. I want to ask about the method. Maybe like it is good to use discriminant analysis, logistic regression, or any statistical method to predict the good debitor from the bad one. Thank you.
So thank you for the question. So yes, this is one of the most common problems in the bank, and actually this is also one of the oldest application of data science in the bank, because since the financial crisis in 2008, the regulators started saying, hey, banks, you are taking too much risk, you are putting the entire economy at risk because you don't monitor what you do, and so you have to take care of your risk. So you need to develop strong and solid statistical models to calculate how risky is your portfolio, and to put some money aside. Some of your own money you should not invest, just put them aside to cover unexpected losses. So this was the background, and since then people started developing these models. And one such model is this model which monitors the probability of default. So it tries to understand if a customer, an existing customer or a new one, will default or not on its debt in the, usually is the period taken is 1 year. And then if you're interested in more years, what you typically do, you model it as a Markov chain process. So And but so the core is to try to model it for 1 year. So yes, we have such models. All banks, I guess, almost all banks around the world have this type of models, which they try to predict if a customer will default or not on his debt. And typically, at least in Europe, what banks use is logistic regression. So the default event is a binary variable, 0 or 1, and you want to predict it usually with logistic regression, yes.
Thank you.
Ya, terima kasih Pak James Arison. Ya, mungkin Pak James dari mana ya?
Dari Dokter Manajemen, Bu.
Baik, jadi mungkin bisa diskusi dengan teman-teman di dosen data science bila mana diperlukan begitu ya, bisa sharing. Itu bisa juga diskusi lebih detail lagi karena kita punya banyak teknik yang mungkin diperlukan. Kita bisa memberikan pengetahuan kita sedikit begitu ya, bisa diskusi bersama bila dikehendaki. Di sini ada Bapak Dr. Didit, tapi sekarang tidak join, yang di bidang itu mungkin bisa untuk diskusi bersama, enggak apa-apa ya, bila berkenan begitu ya Pak ya. Terima kasih. Kemudian there is a question from Yosya Adi Susetyo. He is a master student working in the company. But developing Internet of Things. So he's asking in the chat, maybe you can have a look also. In the bank, the function extends beyond more money storage as it involves lending money to customers. The analysis and determination of the ideal amount to lend while ensuring the bank remains profitable is crucial. Are there any real-time technology in Europe that serve as indicators of a bank's current financial status, whether it is operating profitably or incurring losses?
Yes. So the whole bank business can be simplified very very simply in borrowing money at a low interest and lending money at high interest. So borrowing means taking the money from the customer deposits and paying usually a bit of interest on it. That's why it's borrowing, or and lending the money to people for whatever mortgages, or to companies for projects, or to government for whatever government do. For a higher interest. And yes, and this business model exists since thousands of years. I guess already the ancient Greeks or the Sumerians were doing more or less the same thing. So they were borrowing money at low interest and lending money at higher interest. And so there are very old tools to try to manage the risk which you incur with this business model. What are the risks? The risk is simply that the customer to which you lended the money do not repay you, and then you don't have the money to repay your depositors or something like that. So yes, there exist tools which are at very level of sophistication. There exist different indicators, and yes, there's an entire world behind this. I don't know how much I can say now, and also how prepared I am. But if you want some buzzwords, to go online and search for it, this will be asset liability management. So how you manage your assets and your liabilities. And there are a lot of factors in this. And the primary factors which you should focus on are not only how much money you borrowed and how much money you are lending, but also at which maturity and to which interest rate. So maturity is the time that you are lending the money for, or the time that you are borrowing the money. And the interest rate is, of course, you know what it is. So.
Ya, baik. Semoga menjawab ya, Yosia. Pertanyaannya, kapan bank itu dalam kondisi menguntungkan atau justru dalam keadaan rugi, begitu ya. Okay, and then there is one more questions. Is that possible?
Sure.
Okay. What is your, already asked ya, Pak Martin sudah, tadi sudah, Denny, okay, attendance, James sudah. Is there any other? No? So maybe one more questions according to the European Union. European Union, I heard that England is out from the European Union, right? So yes. Is it impact to the economic global in Europe? Or what do you think as a banker, or to the stability economy in the Europe?
I don't know how qualified I am to give you an answer on this, but yes, England was part of the European Union, and then they decided to get out, and it was a long and painful process. And I guess history has shown that the one who paid the highest price are actually the British, because they lost all the. It was their decision, but it was mostly a populistic and political decision. So it was not a decision taken out of careful consideration. It was simply to please some political agenda. And they are paying a bit of the price for this. Not only I don't know specifically in the financial sector, but in general in the economy, because they lost all the advantages and all the integration with the common and big European market that they have. Even in the financial sector, they were somehow the leaders in Europe. But now many companies are starting moving away from England to be more integrated with the European market. And yes, the supply and the delivery lines are also affected. And even sectors like academia are affected. So England has good universities, but still it was receiving a lot of money for grants for various positions, PhD or professorships and so on from the European Union. And now all this money are lost. So a lot of researchers which were based in the UK and maybe sitting at very prestigious universities are now leaving because their grants are granted somewhere else, and so they are simply leaving. So I don't know. I'm not an economist. I cannot really tell you what was the impact of Brexit, but the general perception is that it was not a good move for the British. Yes.
Okay. So maybe as what is it, ordinary people, I saw that long time, maybe a few years ago, in China, it's already cashless money. So I cannot use my cash money to do payment. But last June in 2023 in Europe, in Germany, we still can do the cash money. So do you think that the development of employing technology, digital technology in Europe is slower than in China? Because China is, more much people compared to Europe, but they can do everything cashless a few years ago. But in Europe, like in Germany, we can still use the cash money. What do you think?
So it's a good question. So on this particular topic, so cashless payments, I guess the technology is ready, will be ready in Europe to support a full cashless infrastructure, because now many countries, including Italy, for instance, require by law every commercial activity to be ready to accept payments with cards, so cashless payments. So now you can pay even the smallest purchase, let's say a coffee or a pencil or whatever, you can pay it with a credit card, no matter how small the amount is. So the technological infrastructure is ready to support this in Europe. The reason why people still want physical cash is partially incomprehensible to me, and most likely related to money laundering and financial crime. So people want they want to hide their money, right? So the reason why Europe is so slow in moving to completely cashless, assuming that it's an ambition of Europe, which I'm not sure. Probably they don't want to do it, but whatever is the decision, the reason is purely political. So. Because from the technological viewpoint, we will be ready. In general, if China is faster in adopting new technology than Europe, my answer will be yes. So I don't know much about China, but my impression is yes, that they are ready, and also probably due to how the difference that politics work in Europe and in China, the government in China has much more leverage on the society. So if the government says, okay, from this moment on, this is the new way of doing things, people will simply start doing it. While in Europe, this will never be the case. So there is no such central power which is able to
Okay.
impose decisions so fast. I don't know if this is good or if it's bad. I don't know. Probably it has both pros and cons, but it's the way it is.
Yeah.
How is it in your country?
We are still using cash money, but some are cashless. I also sometimes prefer to use cash money because it's easy for me
Okay.
to do things. Yeah. Okay. Okay. It's already 8 o'clock. This time now. It means in your place is 13. Eh,
It's 3 p.m. 15.
3 p.m. Yeah, it's already afternoon. Yeah, it's a very, very nice talk actually, and therefore I expect that we will meet again in your like maybe more regular lecture, maybe just 2 meetings in the later on. I will discuss with our colleague because normally we need to, if regular, we need to put what is it? Identity number in the university and must be registered. So it is good only with this one is more simple one. Otherwise, when entering to the class, we have to put or to get to register the identity as a lecturer, and then must be registered to national identity, something like that. So if some, yeah, we just want to give some experience for students that they may have, what is it, to see what the problems going on in the Europe. So that probably with this case, they eager to go to study abroad or to work, international worker. Normally Indonesians are still mostly are afraid of to what's it to interact with international people. Yeah, only some few students. Okay, okay. I think since we have already 2 hours, so I think we have finished already. Thank you very much for your talk. But Denny will ask the audience to open the camera and for reporting that we have done this activity. Please, Denny.
Sorry, ma'am. Matthew will help me to take the picture.
Yeah.
Mr. Joe.
Joe.
Okay. So please, for everybody, please come and to open the camera, please. So in just a few seconds, then I will take the pictures before we finish our sessions. Okay. Okay, there is still. Yeah, everybody, please. And also, Mr. Stefano, please, kindly, please. Yeah, kindly, please, waiting for you, all of you. So, with the kindly, please, I'm waiting for all the audience.
Sorry, what shall I do? Sorry.
Oh, just only open the cam. Just only just now. Maybe the cam is maybe because of the network. Okay, I will.
Is it not
take
open? I think my camera is
Oh,
open, right?
Yeah, it's already open now.
Okay.
It's already opening now. Okay, thank you. So, okay, I will count to 3. Thank you, everybody. Already. Okay, 1, 2, and 3. See the first. Okay, the second one. Okay, smile, please. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, thank you, Wacana. Thank you, Mas Denny, and also Mr. Stefano for the event this evening.
Okay, thank you, Stefano. Nice
Thank
to
you,
meet you.
Stefano.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you for the
Thank
talk.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
Terima kasih teman-teman sudah bergabung. Tuhan memberkati. Selamat malam. Good night. Good afternoon. Take a rest, everybody. Pak Bambang, mari saya tutup.
Ya, mari.
Saya tutup.